This is Phebe-Ann Wolframe here, the current Publicity RA for the McMaster Department of English and Cultural Studies, and today I'm going to be interviewing Dr. Erin Aspenlieder for the department's non-academic jobs blog. Erin graduated with a PhD in English in our department, and she now works as an educational consultant at Fraiser University, and that's where she's joining us from today. Hi, Erin.
Hey, guys.
So, first of all, Erin, I wanted to ask you when you decided to pursue a career outside of a tenure track job stream, which is probably the first thing that comes to most people's minds when they think of jobs after university.
Yeah, I don't think I had like a particular point where I said, I'm not going to do the tenure track. I think instead I realized that there were lots of other things that I was also interested in, so I decided to keep as many doors open to me as I could, and realizing that I could make a particular decision later down the line. And I suppose, to be totally fair, by my fourth year of the PhD, as I was wrapping up the dissertation, recognizing the limits of my publication record and also some questions I had about work-life balance, I decided that I wouldn't actively or aggressively pursue the tenure track.
And so, when did you become interested in doing educational consulting work? What kind of led you to that idea for a career?
Yeah, well, all throughout my PhD, I worked part-time with the Center for Leadership and Learning, which is McMaster's Teaching and Learning Center. And that gave me an opportunity to sort of observe what educational consulting was about and what people in that line of work did or could do. And when I was getting close to the end of my fourth year, the director at that center offered me a postdoctoral position doing research on graduate student professional development. And I saw that as a great bridge for me, that I could take that year and sort of immerse myself in the teaching and learning culture while having the academic door still open, and I could try out what it would be like to be an educational consultant, and I really enjoyed it. So that was the point at which I said, yeah, this is a career path that I'm going to more actively pursue.
Great. And how did you find the job that you're currently in from there?
Networking, I suppose. You're told that all the time about job hunting, that you should network. And it's sort of like, what is that? You go to business meetings and shake people's hands. But I was at a conference and I overheard the director of the SFU center talking about how they would be hiring new people. And I said, you should hire me. And she laughed and walked away. And I was like, oh, okay, so that didn't work. But what I did do was then I started cyber stalking their website. And within a couple of months, there was a job posted. And it wasn't posted on any of the listservs that I was a part of. So had I not actively been checking their website, I wouldn't have found it. And then I applied.
Excellent. So that's possibly good advice for people looking for that kind of work, is to look at the places of employment that might offer that kind of position.
I got great advice. I'm going to interrupt you.
Okay,
I got great advice from a friend of mine saying when she was looking for a tenure track job, she created like an Excel spreadsheet of bookmarked links for all of the institutions. And she checked them every Monday. She did a couple of hours of job searching, just going through the bookmarked links. And the job she ended up getting also wasn't widely publicized in any of the sort of usual places. So there are hidden jobs. You just have to be sort of methodical about checking.
Yeah, that's really good advice, is to be organized in that way. And that way, I suppose you could also target it to places you may be interested in living or finding work.
Yeah, for sure.
Great. So now I want to ask you a little bit about the job that you're in right now. What do you like most about your work?
I like that every day is a different one. That sounds cliche too, but it's true. There's no real average day for me. Some days I'm just researching and writing. Other days I'm in back-to-back meetings, everything from like institutional level meetings about the directions and goals of higher education at SFU to sort of micro meetings with individual instructors talking about how they're going to use the new technology in their classroom. I get to teach, so some days I'm teaching and meeting with my students. I'm working on sort of consultative basis with people like the library, with athletics and rec about curriculum and programming that they're up to. So I get to do a ton of different things, and I like the variety.
That's great. That sounds like you get to put into practice a lot of the skills that we learn even just as TAs or in our graduate programs. Mm-hmm. So that being said, the things that you really like about your job, are there some drawbacks or things that you're less thrilled about when you go to work?
Yeah. Institutions are really slow and they're really stuck in how they've been doing things for a long time. Mm-hmm. And I think part of what I learned in my degree was that I want change and I want things to be different. And part of what I didn't like about academic work was that it often felt disconnected from the real world that I live in. And I guess one of my dissatisfactions with my current job is that it's hard to see changes happening quickly. They're very, very small. Lots of meetings where you go to another meeting or a meeting where no one's read the agenda. It's a bureaucratic kind of place, and I don't love that. I should also say one thing I love is that it's a 9 to 5-ish job. So when I leave at the end of the day, I leave, and I'm doing my own research on teaching that I can take home with me and do on my own time, but I don't have to, and there's no, I can have a life. Yeah.
Yeah, so not the publication pressure or those sorts of demands necessarily.
I'm in a really unique position as I'm sort of stuck between being staff and being faculty, so I have the independence to come and go as I like, and to be on campus when I want and be off campus when I want, but I don't have the publication pressure or the service pressure. Yeah, so it's a good balance for me.
That sounds fairly ideal as academic jobs go, actually. So you've addressed this one a little bit already, but I'm wondering how your post-secondary education, and particularly your graduate work in English, helped you in this current work that you're doing.
It taught me how to ask really good questions. And I think far and away the most useful thing I've been able to bring to SFU is asking questions that people haven't thought to ask recently or haven't asked before. The English department at McMaster is exceptional in its interest and dedication to fostering community, and that spirit and that sort of expectation that there will be community and there will be engagement between scholars and among groups is another thing that I found really useful in this current position. And the ability to research quickly and thoroughly on something. Often an instructor will ask me, like, well, what do you know about motivating students? Or can you tell me about a particular experiential education? And I might not know enough at that moment, but I have the skills from my English training to go and find the information, assess it, provide a little lit review, go back and say, this is what you need to know.
Yeah. So that's again those what they call the transferable skills, right? Like go from sort of one medium of research to another. Yeah. And I really liked how you talked about community too, because that's not necessarily you think of as something everyone would think of as in terms of the formal features of what you do in a PhD, right?
I thought of another one. All of the committee work that I did while I was doing my PhD, so serving on caucus, serving on the social committees, made me a great leader, which I didn't necessarily recognize. And that's been very useful in this position too, to say, I have an idea and I have enough initiative and I have enough practice taking leadership to make that happen. I think like transferable skills is a bit I think that is what you're learning in a PhD. I think you're learning
Mm-hmm.
how to read, how to write, how to take leadership, how to take initiative, how to ask questions. The particular content area, like Canadian historical fiction, doesn't ever come up, and it would never come up unless I was doing a tenure track job. I have had consultations in the English department at SFU where people have said, "Oh yeah, and what was your dissertation about?" Or conversations with philosophy or history majors where I'm able to draw connections to the content, but that's more because I listen to the news and I read.
Yeah.
It has to do with my particular content area in my degree.
Mm-hmm. So my last question is just asking whether you have any advice for soon-to-be or recent MA or PhD graduates who might be interested in working in the field of educational consulting.
Maybe, can I answer that in two parts?
You can do that.
Advice for sort of graduates and then
Okay.
advice for educational consulting. The first is to not despair. I think I spent my second and third year in particular really sure I was never going to have a job, or if I did, it wouldn't be a well-paid one, or I would feel overqualified for it. And what I discovered is I'm really well paid, and I'm challenged every day, and I like what I do. And it's not an impossible thing to happen. It's a sort of, there's recent StatsCan data suggesting that you will get a job, and there's people like me saying you will get a job, and to worry less about will you get one and to focus more on what are the kinds of things that are going to make you happy in a job and make you feel fulfilled and satisfied. For people who want to go into my line of work, send me an email. We can talk, but also get yourself involved with the Society for Teaching and Learning in Higher Education, STLHE. Visit the Center for Leadership and Learning, talk to one of the educational consultants there, see if you can job shadow them for a couple of days, get a sense of what it's like to be an educational consultant. Yeah, those would be my two sort of starting places.
Those sound like excellent starting places. And thank you so much for the note of hope there. I think probably a lot of us appreciate that.
Be hopeful.
Be hopeful. Thanks. So is there anything else that you'd like to add before we finish off this interview?
I guess just a thanks. I mean, thanks that the English department is doing this. I think it's a extraordinary and somewhat exceptional decision to be profiling and highlighting non-academic positions or non-traditionally academic positions. So thanks for doing that.
Well, thank you very much, too, for being part of it. It's been really fun for me so far doing these interviews, and I'm really glad I got a chance to talk with you and share our interview with all of our current students and alumni and faculty in the department.
Okay.
Get nervous. Okay. Thanks, Erin.
Bye.